Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode is number 66 of Thompsin and Other Disappointments. There's so much fucked up stuff going on at the moment. It's impossible to do these solo episodes about whatever is in the news and it not feel dated about 17 hours later. Like, everything is moving so fast. And something that is static, though, something that will be timeless, I think, something that's always been true since, well, for as long as Putin's been leader, at least, and remains true now, obviously. Russia do appear to be lying a lot. I mean, I know we've been told that they're dishonest and they deal in misinformation, and we're told they had a hand in Brexit and Trump and campaign lies and targeted Facebook shit and the bots in St. Petersburg, etc., etc., etc. But like, we're told that they're dodgy. But I don't know, if you think critically, if you describe yourself as a critical thinker, I think you always take even the Western narratives that come out of London and Washington, you take those like with a pinch of, or imperial measure of salt, right? Like if the US says something bad about Russia outside of the context of Ukraine, like Russia have failed to meet their obligations as set out in the Charter, and we have intelligence suggesting that they're engaged in cyber attacks of like, my instinctive reaction was always to say, well, yeah, but you would say that, though, you know? Like, that sort of, that critical thinking piece, like questioning the motives and the biases behind whoever it is that's saying the thing. Like, I'm sure they're dishonest about some shit, Russia. I'm sure they spy and they cyber attack and they lie, but then I'm sure all major governments and nations do that. China, the UK, Germany, and, yeah, the US are not angels. They're, in fact, so far from angels. They fund coup attempts, they arm militia groups, they drone bomb civilians, and then they go, oops, you know, turns out that was a sweet shop, and now there's 17 dead kids in a sinkhole where a wedding used to be, and like, never mind, there's no repercussions, or, you know, it's like nothing seems to happen as a result of their fuck-ups and their lies. There's never any responsibility on the US with their misbehaviour, lies and distortions. And so we learn to take their shit with a pinch of salt. Like you might if you were talking to, I don't know, like, everyone's got that one lying, cheating douchebag mate, don't they? In your 20s, you'd have a mate who would say shit like, oh, you're going out with Samantha? Oh, tread carefully, mate. Psycho, that one. You know, that's sort of, like, they're the piece of shit. They're the liar and the cheater, but then they try to switch it around and apportion blame elsewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, that sort of... And in your head, you're like, yeah, she might be a psycho, but you're no angel, Rob. You know, it's difficult to take Rob's psycho comment seriously, isn't it? Like, is she a psycho, or did she just go a bit psycho when she found out you were fucking her sister again? Taking her sister away for the weekend to an Airbnb in Dorset or something, using the money from your joint savings account that was supposed to be for a flat deposit, Rob. And Rob's like, no, she's just a psycho. she threw a chair at my head aid. And you're like, well, yeah, that's not okay, but like, for no reason. Like, not to sound victim blamey or anything, but it's not like she just woke up that day like, all right, fuck the food shop and the gym. Today I'm going to lob a chair at him for no reason. And they're like, you and your critical thinking. Like, why do you hate me? That's the bare bones of how I perceive the US. They act up, and when they try to blame other countries for what is sometimes their own mess, if you question it or try to dig deeper, then it's like, whose team are you on? Whose team are you on, Craig? Why do you hate America? It's like, it's that ridiculous. Or at least that's how it feels to a lot of us, I think. So I've always taken this, the Russian government are always liars, dishonest, they obfuscate, they distort and confuse with a pinch of salt. But these last few days have really opened my eyes to it. You know, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think it's important to hold your hands up when you've got something wrong like this, as I think I maybe have done, you know? Like, I don't think it was wrong to question or to not entirely believe the apparent truth when it was coming from a sometimes dishonest source, you know, like the US or the UK. Like sequential American presidents who themselves have been known to spout a few whoppers But on these occasions where they were saying that, Russia lies, Russia obfuscates, they deal in misinformation, on this, they happen to have been telling the truth. It's a bit like that, what's that Onion article? I don't know if you guys remember this. There was an Onion article a few years ago where it says, it's like the headline is, heartbreaking. The worst person you know just made a great point. It's a bit like that. It's like, they're not entirely trustworthy, but on this occasion, in this instance and scenario, they happen to have said the correct thing. And I just didn't believe them because I didn't overly trust them either. Now, I'm not saying in the grand scheme of things that Biden or Trump or Obama are the worst people ever. I think Trump is a well-documented sociopath, still traumatized from childhood neglect and or abuse from his father, and that manifested in often disgusting, cruel and embarrassing ways. And I think Obama and Biden are probably, on balance, as okay as you can expect from a world leader. Certainly one that's charged with that level of responsibility and to both serve America's interests but also govern as much world peace as you can. They're kind of, if I had to describe them, I'd say like they are all right-ish. But it's that ish, isn't it? It's the fact they do spin a yarn, they do stretch credibility, they do distort things and fund coups and so on, and that then when they fuck around and get behind a podium and say Vladimir Putin is a liar, you'd be an idiot if you didn't at least question it, I think. I don't know. So, as I say, I assumed Putin probably did lie about some shit like other world leaders did and still do. Either for the interest of his country or their country, or as like a sort of political device to help them retain power. I think that's why they do it also. And I had suspicions that he lied more than others, that his Kremlin put out more lies than most other governments and behaved more maliciously and disturbingly than a lot of others. Like that flight MH17 that was shot down, and they lied about it. The poisoning of the Skripals, the refusal to acknowledge Litvinenko's murder, the Salisbury sightseeing nonsense. I was aware of all of this, and I kind of broadly understood it to all be rubbish. But I suppose with these isolated incidents, I sort of assumed the dishonesty was kind of on a par with an American lie about a drone-bombed wedding or something. You know what I mean? I hope that doesn't sound reductive or crass or insensitive, but if you've ever seen an American general on a stage in the White House or the Secretary of Defense saying shit like, I don't know, it'll be like a guy in a nice suit, White House, blue curtain behind him, and he'll say shit like, at 0300, a team of American SEALs were dispatched to engage what intelligence estimated to be an unauthorized nuclear enrichment facility. They engaged and neutralized all 13 occupants of said facility. Once the area had been secured, the team commander sadly did confirm that all 13 occupants were both dead and, unfortunately, school children. You're like, what? Explain this? Explain this now. Like you're shitting anger brimming around your boxes. And the journalist is like, so it was a school. You sent Navy SEALs in Navy SEALs? You sent Navy SEALs into a school. That's what you did. And the guy's like, American intelligence is the finest in the world, ma'am. But you killed a classroom full of kids. It was a rumored nuclear enrichment facility. But you got it wrong. And now 13 children are dead. Well, we think they moved the nuclear stuff out and put the kids in there just before we arrived. Right. Or you just got it wrong and sent SEALs into a classroom. I don't know. American intelligence is the finest in the world, Like, I'm making that example up, obviously. So don't feel too bad about the 13 dead kids that I made up here. They're not real. Feel bad about that. Feel bad about the fact they were never real. And then they died. This is getting dark now. But let's get back on point. So that is not too outrageous, though. Like, I made it up, but it's not too outrageous a scenario, I don't think. If you're a news or politics junkie and you allow yourself to be aware of the type of shit they put out in the White House, when they just hope that CBS or Fox News take the patriotic line on it, and then you see the Putin line on MH17 or the Skripals, and you kind of go, well, they're all the same. You know, that's presidents for you. Ugh. But Putin, he'd probably agree with this description, is actually quite exceptional. Because, like, Vladimir Putin is not just a liar. He's a shit one. He's a crap liar. Exceptionally shit, in fact. For all his apologists and weird right-wing fanboys who, I don't know, it's quite funny. Like, they kiss his arse. Like, it's exactly like the sort of scrawny kid at school kissed the arse of the bully. Like, do you remember that sort of, like, they're not strong, they're not a bully, but they just kiss the arse of the bully, hoping they won't get beaten up that way. They kiss his arse like, well, when his tanks come rolling down Whitehall, he'll reward my loyalty with a seat at the table. And it's like, no, he knows you're an impressionable, self-serving, self-preserving, cowardly cretin. Like, dude, you think he's great? He thinks you're a useful idiot. In fact, that's probably why you are where you are, Nigel, Donald, and Aaron. These easily manipulatable, malleable dribblers that they're like pawns on a chessboard. And they think they'll get this, like, sort of right-hand man seat at the table. But then, here's the thing. If Putin did go ahead and invade Britain, they would be first on a train to a special camp for crayon eaters, like Hitler style. They'd be like, well, there must be some sort of mistake, because Mr. Putin would never have me jailed in the Tower of London for this crime of, like, I mean, what does it even say there again? And the guy's like, it says, cretiny deemed to be the threat to the state. You know, like, they think they're getting a seat at the table. They're going to end up jailed for being a cretin. You can't have that level of idiocy out in the wild, guys. You're too much of a threat. And, like, that shit is, like, it's so tragic. It'd make your minge cringe. It's that like, it's funny how tragic it is. And they say, like, comedy equals tragedy plus time, don't they? That's the formula. You can take a tragedy, add time to it, and eventually it will become funny. Comedy equals tragedy plus time. And it is, like, it's funny how tragic it is. So now all we need is time to make that the hilarity that it already is. Fuck me, I'm talking some nonsense today, aren't I? But anyway, let's, again, try not to get sidetracked here. For all his apologists and fanboys, Putin doesn't come off as a particularly good liar. That's what I've noticed in the last few days, which is also kind of tragic, considering that basically seems to be his main skill. It's like being dishonest. Imagine being, like, dishonest but then being bad at it. Because, like, let's be real, being a liar by itself is bad, but a shit liar is worse. I know that sounds a bit weird, but, like, a liar on his own or her own is bad, but a shit liar is just infinitely worse. Because at least with a liar, you like them most of the time while the lie is active, while the lie is going on. A good liar, you can still have a happy marriage with a good liar for 59 out of the 60 years until you find out about it all. A good liar isn't too bad in that respect. In fact, they're mostly good by that measure. But a shit liar tells you a lie, and then it's like levels deep shit, you know? First you have to deal with the fact they're obviously lying to you. Like, oh, here we go. It takes effort to manage that as it's happening, listening to it. It's just exhausting having to endure the obvious bullshit itself. Like, yeah, did I ever tell you that my dad invented Italy, actually? Like, you got to stomach that and listen to it, like, or if you can find the energy to dismantle it, like, your dad did not invent Italy, you fucking moron, like. And then second, you have to deal with the obvious disrespect that they're showing you. Like, it's one thing to lie for your own benefit or to get yourself out of trouble, but the liar is treating you like an idiot. It's insulting. There's a real subtext of, like, he or she is telling me this nonsense because they clearly think I'm a moron. They really think I'll gobble this shit up. Like, oh, sure, I'll believe you. I don't know why that sounded like Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo, patently not a moron. I mean, that guy solved crimes for days, bruv. And then third, you have to deal with the fallout of when the lie becomes exposed. Either because you pulled them apart about it or because someone else bothered to. Like, shit liars are just way worse. And that's Putin's vibe right now. Like, there's news footage of tanks rolling over cars, and they're like, there are no Russian tanks in Ukraine. Like, what? Are you on crack? You know, there's historical documentation of Ukraine disarming their own nukes, which they did, as I understand it, after assurances from Russia that they would be protected in the event of conflict. So that in itself is another lie. They're not protecting them. In fact, they are the aggressors. But now the current lie completely wipes that assurance from history. Like, oh, yeah, not only did we not commit to that, but also they are building nukes there. So we feel threatened. Like, they're not building nukes there. So how can you feel threatened? Well, they are. So we have to go in and secure the country. And then there's this, Ukraine is being run by neo-Nazis nonsense. I think, didn't I read somewhere that the president of Ukraine himself is, like, his family went to concentration camps, like, were persecuted by Nazis. So I don't know how you get off on pretending that Ukraine is somehow being run by neo-Nazis. It's fucking demonstrable nonsense. And then there's the news footage that was put out by Russia Today. The whole thing is exhausting, man. Like, their news channel, Russia Today, or RT, as they're branded, they put this video out and it's been instantly debunked as having been ripped off the internet, which is where you download a video off the internet and you can manipulate it and re-edit it and change the sound, and there's certain sounds in this video that have been muted in certain parts where it would have given away where it had come from, and then this sort of crack squad of cyber hacker dudes debunked it because they looked at the metadata of the video and it shows where it was filmed and the date that it was filmed, and it predates all this. So they're all such shit lies and obvious. And I don't know, I think in this country, and presumably others, like, we credit, if that's not too weird a word for it, we credit Vladimir Putin with being some sort of evil mastermind, don't we? We've sort of mistaken him for that. We allow him to play that part. Like, he looks like a Bond villain. He's a throwback to the Soviet Union in many ways. He obviously harbours great ambition to rebuild that Soviet Union type empire. And he rules with an iron fist. And I think so we've always assumed he's this mastermind too. But stuff like this, like the battering they're getting from Ukrainian nationals, the outcry from the international community, the Nord Stream pipeline getting cancelled, the growing possibility that SWIFT banking transactions will withdraw from Russia and Russia's businesses. Like, there's been a lot of insanity and miscalculation on his part. He comes off as like someone who's sort of fumbling his way through this, not like an evil genius. He's like a sort of, a big part of this episode is about, a liar versus just a shit liar. Well, he's like a cheating husband who uses all his intellect to organise the cheating and booking hotel rooms and wooing his bits on the side, but then he has no intelligence left in reserve for how to handle the scrutiny and criticism that he gets, Like when his wife says, well, where were you? Like, I thought you said you were working late. Or like, why is there a charge on the joint account for a Holiday Inn? What is this lipstick on your collar? This isn't mine. Why won't my sister look me in the eye anymore? Like, and the cheating husband, the shit liar, is just like, oh, I don't know, all those things are just weird. They're weird things. Look over there, neo-Nazis. Just a shit cheater. Just, don't know how that happened. I suppose the bigger question now is, and this is clearly a question for another podcast, but does it matter that we can all see the emperor with no clothes, that he lies so obviously and flagrantly? And there are parallels to be drawn there with our own political leaders, absolutely, but for Putin, whose political culture has been like this for years, who is able to squash political opposition and scrutiny of his bullshit with, like, at times, this is not hyperbole, intimidation and murder, and jailing his opponents. Does it matter when Westerners look on and go, hang on, what the fuck? Like, why are they pretending they're not in Kiev when they are obviously in fucking Kiev? Like, does it matter that we know the truth? Or will he just carry on? And the follow-up, the more terrifying question, sorry to leave you on a downer, but the more terrifying question that should shake you to your core is if that's the blueprint, just lie more, and carry on as though nothing's happened. Is that the model that Putin's British financial beneficiaries are pursuing? Do we even need to worry about Putin invading the United Kingdom and rolling tanks down Whitehall? Like, even if he doesn't, is that broadly where we're headed anyway? I did say sorry to leave you on the downer. If you've enjoyed any of these episodes of the podcast, please do click subscribe. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the usual platforms where you catch your podcast. This has been coming to you live from the depths of Farnham today, so that might be why you can hear shit in the background. Thank you so much for tuning in, though. I'll be back next week, probably with another episode solo. Like, I call them fuck this week, the solo editions, because it's like whatever's in the news, it's like, oh, motherfuck this week. But I'm also usually back on a Friday night, 7:30, streaming live on YouTube with a guest, exploring their area of expertise or their book or whatever. So if you'd like to join me for that, I'll be back next Friday night. Failing that, solo shows uploaded in the week, and I will catch up with you all soon. Ciao for now. Goodbye.